science enthusiasts. Welcome to SciChat. My name is Jason Zakowski. I'm the dog dad of Bunsen and Beaker, the science dogs on social media. My co-host is...
My name is Kris Zakowski, and I am the dog mom of Bunsen and Beaker, and then the cat mom of Ginger.
Looks like Bunsen is there talking too. This is our last show. What's that, Kris?
Yes, I said Bunsen is talking too. He hasn't said anything for 17 hours, and now...
Yeah, no, he wants to... He's just telling everybody he's so excited for science. This is our last show of 2022, and it is a wrap-up show. So what that is we're going to talk about some of the big science stories from this year, 2022, and then we'll kind of, if people have questions about it or want to share things that they found amazing, we can do that after the first 25 minutes. Okay, so we have our Kahoot up in the nest. You can join the link if you'd like. We would love for you to join Kahoot. Okay, I'm just going to change the title to The Wacky and Wild Science Stories this year.
Yeah, and the PIN number for the Kahoot is 878-1850.
Oh, thanks.
That's 878-1850.
Thank you, Kris. I see you're playing.
Ooh. Oh my goodness. How did you know?
Yes. We would love for everybody to tweet this out. We didn't really do, not we. Me personally, I did a terrible job of advertising this. I forgot. So I'm so sorry. Normally I have little cute ads that go out and I'm way more organized. That just didn't happen. I don't know what happened to me yesterday. What was going on? Was I just all by myself? Because you were at an event all night, Kris. I think that's what it was.
Yeah, I had the Royals board meeting.
Right.
So I was doing that, and you were left to your own devices.
Yeah, I had no guidance. I was just rudderless and packing the last stuffies and calendars, and then yeah.
Yeah, that's what you were doing. You were packing the calendars and the stuffy.
I just forgot.
And then I got home at 10 o'clock, and then I had to do the Advent videos.
Oh, that's right.
It was a gong show.
All right. Looks like we've got all the people that are going to play Kahoot. So the Kahoot is about the science stories this year. So, yeah, I'm just going to invite a couple more people. We'll see if they come too. Okay. So let's get going on the game. Let's get going on the Kahoot game. Okay. Here we go. Ooh, it's a little slow. Wacky and fun science news. So we're going to talk about some of these throughout the show tonight. Number 1. In what can be only considered nightmare fuel, robotic engineers created this. A reanimated spider crane game horror, an AI dancing robot that only knows dances from the 80s, a hologram producing AI that can only recreate butts, a virtual assistant that slowly sabotages your day. Okay, so what was it? Yeah, it was a reanimated spider crane. So I will talk about that a little bit later. That is what it was. None of those other things were true. They're all super weird. None of them were true. Okay.
No, and then I recreated that story in the Pawdcast as a science link.
That's true. You did. So the Pawdcast probably did pretty good on that. Okay, next one. The JWST launched this year after many years of anticipation. What was the first photo it beamed back? Ancient cheese. Ancient galaxies. Ancient planets. Ancient aliens. What was it, everybody? What was it? What did the JWST beam back? And it was, we got 100% on that. It was ancient galaxies. Yeah, very, very cool. Ancient galaxies. All right. We have Liz in first place. Liz used to win all of the time. So good job, Liz. We have Liz, Carousel, Tinker, Slim Shady. That's you, Kris, and Snake. Okay. Next one. This animal was observed throwing stuff at each other because they were annoyed with each other for the first time ever. So they haven't seen it do this before. An octopus, a cat, elephants, or emus. So this animal was actually throwing crap at each other because they were super annoyed with each other. That was the only thing they could think. It was an octopus. They observed the octopus changing their siphons, like the little vents that allow them to squirt water out to let them swim. And the one octopus, they were annoyed with each other and they were squirting water at each other, and it was blowing like dirt and debris. They were really angry at each other, and they were actually throwing dirt and debris by basically spitting on each other. It had never been seen before. And octopus are way smarter than we think. Okay. Carousel. Then we've got Tinker, Snake, and Liz. Okay, next question.
Excuse me, I think we missed somebody.
Maybe. This animal was taught to drive a car using light sensors. A pig, a dog, and an alpaca, goldfish. This animal was taught to drive a car using light sensors. This is almost impossible to believe it's true. It's goldfish. They had goldfish in a tank, and the goldfish learned to swim, and as it swam, it moved the little vehicle. It actually drove the little car around. It's so weird. Isn't that bananas? So, yeah, there's 6 goldfish, and it was in this little, I have a video, which I will post into, if I can figure out how to do it, I will post it into the chat so you all can see these goldfish driving around. It's pretty crazy. Okay. Oh, I'm running Coot. I'm sorry. Somebody got that right. Ooh, Katrina got that right. So we got Carousel, Slim Shady, Katrina, Tinker, and Snake. Okay, here we go. This animal consistently outsmarted humans in a war this year named Bin Wars. This was a big deal in a certain place of the world, and this animal constantly outsmarted the humans that it was at war with, and they called it Bin Wars. Cockatoos, giraffes, bears, raccoons. No, you would think raccoons, and everybody picked that. It's actually cockatoos, birds. They were in Australia, and they got into people's garbage bins. So there was an arms race against the cockatoos. They would put rocks and sticks, and the cockatoos figured out how to move them. Then they would tie them up, and the cockatoos learned how to untie the bins and unlock the bins. And other cockatoos from other places in the town would figure out first how to solve the problem. And then they were shown to be teaching other cockatoo families how to open the bins. And it was this arms race between the birds and the humans. And I don't know what the resolution of it was, but it's adorable because I don't live in Australia and have to deal with this mess. Nobody got that question right. So we're on to the last question. The JWST has this many mirrors. It's a slider question. How many mirrors does the JWST have? That's the James Webb Space Telescope. Ooh. How many mirrors does the JWST have? How many? It's... Here we go. Here we go.
18.
This is really painful. 18 mirrors. Yeah, 18 mirrors. 2 people got that correct. Okay.
I wonder which one, who one of the people is.
So we got Katrina in 3rd, Carousel in 2nd. Oh my goodness. Did you win, Kris? No. Oh, I can't.
You dissed me. You said I would not win. You were like, Kris will not win.
I can't believe you won, Kris. Well,
how can you not believe that? Don't you think I love science?
No. I know you love science. All right, so that's the weird and wacky Kahoot. Thank you for playing. So, on our story docket. So this is just some things, the big science news this year that happened. We'll start with the James Webb Space Telescope, or the JWST. It was launched on December 25th, I think, 2021. It took...
Absolutely. 5 a.m., Jason. I was watching it.
We were watching it. Yep.
Yeah, on the better feed than you had. You're like, where did you get this feed? I said, it's the YouTube feed. And you said, mine's the Facebook feed. And all I can see is people's like emojis. And I said, I've got the better feed.
Right. And it took a long time to get out to the Lagrange point where the gravity is relatively stable. So it doesn't have to use a lot of energy to stay out there. It's about 1 million miles from Earth. That's where the JWST is living right now. And it wants to be that far away. So it's really, really cold. It has a sun shield. So it keeps the sunlight off it. And the other side, it's just, there's no sun. And it operates for the Americans at minus 390 Fahrenheit. And at that temperature, everything on it runs really, really good to keep the infrared as sensitive as possible. And the first photo it beamed back was the JWST deep field. And that had these ancient galaxies. Do you guys remember when those photos were released? Anybody in the audience remember that, when those photos were released? Okay, I see some thumbs up. It was emotional for me. Like, I teared up. We were looking back 13.8 billion years ago. That's how old those galaxies were.
13.5 billion.
13.5. Oh, I'm sorry. 13.5. Okay. I don't have all of these. I'm close. I guess, in the cosmic scale, being off by 300 million isn't too bad. Anything else you wanted to add about JWST?
No, just that, well, yes. In the background, you can see faint red galaxies scattered like rubies across the sky. So, diamonds are a girl's best friend. Maybe rubies. Maybe rubies.
Yeah. The other two things that the JWST has found is it's got this amazing spectroscope on it. So it can analyze the gases of exoplanets. And it found water on this big, giant, hot planet called WASP. And it also, we talked to Dario Pidohordesca last week. And that's the other thing that it found was sulfur dioxide, which is only made by light. So the chemistry that's happening in our solar system happens on other planets around other stars. Very, very cool. All right, another fun science story from this year was a team of scientists found that a bacteria called C. difficile has chainmail. Did you read this story, Kris?
I'm just getting up to date on it right now.
Oh, okay.
The bacteria's outer barrier, called the S layer, may be the reason for its antibiotic resistance.
Right. So it's notoriously known for resisting antibiotics. And because of how its S layer, which is like one of the layers that bacteria have on their cell membrane, cell wall, it's made of these very, very tightly linked proteins. And when they look at it underneath a microscope, it kind of looks like medieval chainmail, like a knight would wear. And that stops bigger molecules like antibiotics from getting through.
Would that be a knight in C. difficile armor?
I guess so. But this is not a knight that you really want to get into your body, right? Like C.
Can you talk a little bit about maybe if it's MRSA, like one of those difficulties with resistance to antibiotics?
Well, I think all different bacterias can do that. This one is more an infection of your colon. So yeah, like it's not great. It can, one of the things that C. difficile does come about, if you want to talk about antibiotics, Kris, is that after you've used antibiotics, it kind of wipes out your gut bacteria and your intestine bacteria. And that's where C. difficile, that's its time to shine. So you kind of want to have good gut microbes. But anyways, I thought it was kind of funny that this bacteria has chain-linked armor made from proteins.
Okay, and the reason why that is because you love chainmail. You have loved chainmail since you were little.
Yes.
Yes, you actually 3D printed chainmail.
I did.
You definitely want to buy a whole suit made out of chainmail.
Maybe.
Until you realize the cost was prohibitive.
Well, I think back when I wanted chainmail, maybe I didn't have money for chainmail. Maybe I have money for chainmail now.
Or a trip, or we might have money for a trip. And you can't wear chainmail through the metal detectors at the airport.
No, but do you remember when I shot those science videos with the radio station? We got chainmail from a local like Viking group in Red Deer. And then me and the DJ, we fought with swords all through Lindsay Thurber. That was a lot of fun.
The DJ and I?
The DJ and I. Yeah, Ryan. He and I fought with swords all throughout Lindsay Thurber because they were doing a Game of Thrones promotion. And then I was explaining some of the science behind fire arrows and things like that. It was a lot of fun, actually.
That is a lot of fun. That was the start of your career.
Yeah, we were fighting outside the school. They were taking, like, the camera crew was taking B-roll, and a school bus rolled up. I don't know why they were there on, like, a Saturday or something, but they rolled up and we were fighting outside the school, and the kids were like, "What is going on?" So they all got out the bus and watched us fight, and then Ryan killed me. Like, he did the sword through the armpit move, and then everybody cheered. So there you go. Okay, Kris, what about the story about vampire bats? That's a fun one.
That is. Vampire bats are super cute. They are the only mammals that can survive on a blood-only diet. Researchers have found 13 genes that are missing or inactive in vampire bat genomes, which have allowed them to survive on that blood diet.
Yeah, so vampire bats consume only blood. And they normally, if you or I decided to go full vampire, like what was that book that you
Edward? Oh no, isn't Edward a vegetarian vampire?
Well, he still only eats blood. It's not like Edward's having like a cheese sandwich, Kris.
No.
Okay.
True.
That's a Twilight reference. Anyways, if a human decided to only eat blood, we would die of iron poisoning and a whole bunch of other issues. Like, there'd be so much iron in our body, we would die. And one of the genes that these vampire bats are missing is a gene that uptakes iron. So they just poop out all the extra iron, which allows them to only eat blood. Now, what's the cool thing about their taste buds? I love this, Kris.
Well,
or do you want me to explain that one?
Maybe you could explain that one.
They're missing the gene for taste buds. So vampire bats have no taste. So the only thing they can eat is blood, and it, to the best of science knowledge, they can't taste it at all. And that's one of the things that allows bats to have this one diet, that they don't actually want to seek out any other food because they don't know the difference. Vampire bats are really cool. Like, they do all these weird social things. Like when one vampire's sick and it can't get food, other vampire bats will get blood for it and like regurgitate it to keep their family members alive. They're really cool animals.
Yeah, and understanding those genetic traits within the bat may help researchers develop new treatments for iron overload disorders in humans.
Exactly. Yeah.
Is super cool.
Yeah. So some people do have genetic issues where they just uptake iron way more than the average person, and they have to be really careful with their iron intake. Go vampire bats, hey? That's kind of cool.
Yes.
Now, we talked to another fun science story. We talked to Kathleen Morrow of Darwin's dogs. What did Darwin's dogs, the big giant study, find, Kris?
Well, I believe it found that dog breed does not predict the traits.
Yeah, that was a touchy subject.
Yeah, I was just going to say that when you were talking about it, people were like, we don't believe you, because people associate their specific dog with a certain breed and a certain trait. And then I think there's some confirmation bias there because they look for it. They're like, oh, Bunsen, he's sitting on my feet. He must be a Bernese Mountain Dog.
But then many other dogs do the same thing. Yeah. So this study wasn't small. Darwin's dogs took the data from over 18,000 dogs. And then that was like a survey about what the dogs did and where they come from. But they also took the DNA from pure and mixed breed dogs, and they linked traits to the survey. And they found only 9% of traits are linked to a dog breed. Only 9%. But as Kathleen Morrow said, that 9% could be a lot, right? They did find that border collies were really good at herding and that retrievers were pretty good at retrieving. And Bernese Mountain Dogs were pretty calm under stressful situations. So there are some traits that are definitely linked to dog breed, but not very many, only 9%.
Right. And their personality is shaped by more than that. It's a combination of factors, including their environment and how they are raised.
Yeah, that's right. And the other thing, we've talked to trainers before on our shows, and they're like, you could take 10 golden retrievers and they might all look really similar, but they're all going to have individual personalities just like people, which is kind of cool. But I think a trait of most golden retrievers is they're kind of chaos dogs. I don't know. Beaker's full of chaos.
Beaker is the sweetest dog. I love her.
Yeah, she's a sweetheart. But she's also full of chaos.
I think she's very calm.
She's pretty calm.
And chaotic.
Yeah.
But that is actually funny that you should say that, because you said when we were picking out Beaker, the breeder said that she's highly energetic but also calm, and we thought that was a bit of an oxymoron or a paradox.
Yeah.
And we thought, how can that be? But you know what? That's exactly who she is.
Yeah. That's what the parents have lots of energy but calm dogs. That's what they said, and that's Beaker. Okay. This story was a little freaky deaky. It's a fun one. So some Japanese scientists decided, what should we do with this robotic finger that we can operate to point and move around? It's like a pointer finger, is it called your pointer finger, Kris?
Yes.
Okay.
The one that you point, your point one.
Okay. I thought maybe it had a special name.
The index finger.
Is it the index finger? What's the middle finger called? Isn't that the index finger? Is it just called the middle finger?
You know what?
Because there's your ring finger and then your pinky finger. And
your
then
pinky
you got
finger
your
is
thumb,
actually...
which is not really a finger. And the kids are like, your thumb's not a finger. And I'm like, well, okay, well, back to the study. These Japanese scientists were like, what should we do with this robotic finger? And one of them was like, you know what? Let's put skin on it. So that's exactly what they did. They took layers of actual human skin cells, the different layers and the different types of skin cells, and they layered it on this finger, kept it in a goo to keep it not from drying out. So it's like a sweaty, gooey, skinny finger, and it worked. It absolutely worked, Kris.
I know. Every time I read this or think about this, it reminds me of salad fingers.
I don't think people get that reference.
They probably will not. However, well, actually, I don't even encourage you to look it up on the internet because it is definitely beyond strange, the salad fingers. But every time I think of this freaky robotic finger, like it just makes me think of that.
Yeah, you can Google this. If I had more time, I would have done a better job and I would have had pictures and stuff ready. But I know on the, I think that's a story on the Pawpack, or we should put it on the Pawpack. Now, the Japanese team didn't stop with let's coat this freaky finger with actual human living skin cells. Like the skin cells were alive. They were cloned and made and grown in a petri dish. They're going to be adding hair follicles, nails, and sweat glands. And you know what? The next thing they're going to put the skin on, Kris?
I'm not sure.
A face. A robotic face. No, I'm serious.
No, thank you.
I'm serious.
Thank you.
I'm serious.
You know what would be awesome?
What?
Is to have the skin on a face and then type in a story through ChatGPT and then have the animatronic robot with the skin on the face talking.
Ew.
And then have their salad fingers going, ee.
No. That's
No?
freaky.
Okay.
That is freaky deaky. I don't like that.
That is the stuff nightmares are made of.
That's right. Okay, let's get off this nightmare fuel and talk about dog smell-o-vision. This was really...
Oh, this was a great story.
Yeah.
And this one
Go
really
ahead.
tied well into the thread on TikTok and Twitter, because we actually have dogs that have amazing noses.
Yeah. So researchers at Cornell, they mapped out the sensory neurosystem of dogs. So these are sadly, these are dogs that have died and they're, they've done autopsies on them and mapped out their neural pathway. And they found a linkage that has been missed by scientists, veterinarians till now. And it links the olfactory bulb to their eyes. So what this means is that when a dog smells, and they have such a powerful sense of smell, it travels to their olfactory bulb, which is below their brain, but it also links up with data from their eyes. So what that means is that those signals get mixed. To the best knowledge of scientists, and this is wild, when a dog smells, it probably sees the smell. Like it makes pictures from the smell. And various humans can do that with different things. What's that called, Kris? Synesthesia or something like that? Do you know the...
No, I don't know that name.
Synesthesia. So that's where if some people who, when they listen to music, they see things, or like people who are really, really into math, they have like some special mutation that they see numbers as colors or sounds. So humans have that, and it's a very small percentage of humans that do that. So thank you, Liz, is Synesthesia. But
so they're X-Men?
Basically, they're mutants. But dogs, to the best of scientific knowledge, see smells. And what does that look like? We don't know. We're not a dog. And we can't ask them either because they don't speak English or whatever language we're speaking. But I think that's so cool.
I love that. I really felt more connected to Bunsen and Beaker, just thinking of when we go for the safari, our walks in the summer, and just how much they enjoy that experience and how rich it is for them to be able to smell all those smells.
Mm-hmm. We were lucky enough to have Dr. Zazie Todd on as a guest, and she wrote 2 books, Wag and Purr. And that's what some of the new research with dogs says. You have to give them time to explore the world, how they explore the world. They don't explore the world like we do. They explore the world through smells. And that's why we now use the term sniffari or smellfari. And we've started to give Bunsen and Beaker time to do that. The new evidence and the research shows it's very good for their mental health. Okay, let's head back to space, Kris. What can you tell me about the Artemis mission? It just splashed down a couple days ago. Yesterday, 2 days ago.
It's very exciting. The Artemis program is a series of space missions that are run by NASA, and 3 Artemis missions are in progress: Artemis 1, 2, and 3.
Yep.
I believe those are aptly named because there are 3, and so why not call them? At least they didn't call them like Larry, Moe, and Curly.
Oh, come on! I would love to be an astronaut on the Moe spaceship. As you fly to the moon.
I can see you doing that, actually, 100%.
You know the little bonk they would do, like bonk on the moon?
Yeah.
Bonk, or try to poke somebody because there's low gravity, they'd fly away.
Oh, that's funny. So Artemis 3, this is exciting. Artemis 3 will land the first female astronaut and the first astronaut of color on the moon. And involves spending a week performing scientific studies on the lunar surface.
It's so cool. Okay, so Artemis 1 was a huge success. I talked about Artemis 1 on the podcast, so I know a lot about Artemis 1. I'm a little more fuzzy on the other 2. Artemis 1 was uncrewed. There was no crew on it. They sent it to the moon, the capsule, and it orbited the moon a whole bunch of times and then came back to Earth. And it had dummy astronauts, so they had like mannequins in it that weigh about what the astronauts are going to weigh, and they had a whole bunch of sensors all over these fake dummy bodies to test things like radiation, right? Is for one. When they sent the first astronauts to the moon, they didn't necessarily care too much about their health. They just wanted to beat the Russians. If we're being honest, back in the early space race. So now they're a little bit more concerned about things like radiation. And if they are sending women to the moon or to orbit the moon, there's no data on what space radiation would do to the different biology that a female astronaut would have. So that's, it's good on NASA for getting that data. So they're going to look at all of the sensor stuff and say, okay, well, this is what we need to worry about for Artemis 2, because Artemis 2 launches next year and it will have people in it. It will have astronauts in it that will go and orbit the moon a bunch of times and then come back. So maybe a little bit of a bummer if you were the astronaut picked for Artemis 2, because you're not going to land on the moon. You're just going to like whiz around the moon a bunch of times, like, hello, moon, and then all the way home. But the big one, Kris, is Artemis 3, because guess what Artemis 3 is going to do?
It will be the first crewed moon landing since Apollo 17 in 1972. That actually happened before I was born.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. All of this happened before either of us were born. But when I talk to people, say like in their 50s, 60s, and 70s, when they landed on the moon, it was like the biggest deal ever. Like people stopped what they were doing. It was like, it's going to be the same thing again. And I think they're aiming for 2025 for the Artemis 3 to land with a crew on the moon. So, I mean, it's a little bit away, but I told the grade 9s and 10s that you might be in school when this happens, and whatever I'm teaching, sure as hell, I'm going to stop it and we're going to watch the people land on the frickin' moon if it's happening when school's on. We're not covering, 100%. There's way more important than covering redox chemistry or whatever nonsense I'll be teaching that day.
Or even the World Cup. I didn't even watch any of the World Cup.
I trolled all the kids that were into the World Cup. They were talking about it. I was like, are you talking about Pokemon? And they were so mad at me.
That's so funny. But no, this would be something to stop and pause.
That's right.
You know what? Even if the JWST was during school, buy a quadratic formula.
Yeah, it's a big deal. Okay, a couple more fun science stories, and then we'll open it up to our audience if they'd like to ask questions or talk about something they thought was cool. Staying in space, we should talk about DART. DART stands for Double Asteroid Redirection Test. And it was a kamikaze spacecraft that NASA basically suicide crashed into a asteroid to see if they could nudge it ever so slightly off of its orbit. Because the idea is that the dinosaurs didn't have a space program, and it didn't really go well for them when a killer asteroid came their way. The easiest way to move an asteroid is just to boop it. Boop, just with a little boop. And even though the DART was like the size of a refrigerator, when they flew it at such a high rate of speed into this asteroid, it actually moved it in outer space enough that it moved its orbit quite a bit. So if there was a killer asteroid coming our way, we would not need Bruce Willis and a ragtag group of oil drillers. We would just send a kamikaze probe at it at really, really fast rates of speed and nudge it so it missed us many years down the road. So this would require planning to get there in time.
Right. And so we're basically going to huck a fridge at it.
Well, yeah. I mean, it doesn't really matter. Like if you huck a fridge at anything, you're going to move it. Like fridges are pretty big. Like I know, like if you hucked a fridge at your house at 100,000 kilometers an hour, you're probably going to do something to your house, even though the house is way bigger than the fridge. I would love to see that test, to be honest with you. Like if I was on Mythbusters, that would be what I would do. I would say, can we have a budget and throw a fridge at a house at 100,000 kilometers an hour just to see what would happen?
And you would wear your chainmail suit.
I don't think the chainmail would protect you from a fridge going at 100,000 kilometers an hour. It was only made to protect you against medieval arrows.
Yes, but I think you would look good. You would look cool.
I think anybody looks cool in armor. It really doesn't matter. Like if you just want to like up your game, wear some armor.
Right. And so the success of the DART mission will pave the way for the Hera mission, which is a planned joint mission between NASA and the European Space Agency to study the effects of the impact on Dimorphos.
Yeah, Dimorphos was the name of it was minding its own business, actually. The asteroid was just floating out there and NASA's like, let's hit that one. Can you imagine if you were that asteroid? You're just like, you're just out there in space. You've been out there for millions of years, minding your own business, just floating about. And then a refrigerator hits you going 100,000 kilometers an hour. You'd be like, what the hell? What just happened?
Look at you. You're just personifying space. I love it.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about the Nobel Prizes that were awarded this year. So there was Nobel Prizes awarded in physics to 3 scientists, Alan Aspect, John Clauser, and Antoine Zellinger, and they worked with entangled photons. This is way beyond my pay grade for explaining quantum physics to people. Not good at it, but the whole idea is that photons, which are light, can share similar properties when they're separated by large distances. So it's like one photon of one thing of light does a thing and another photon that's further away from it does the same thing. They're like connected somehow. So that's kind of cool. And in chemistry, Carolyn Bertozzi, Morton Meldal, and Barry Sharpless, they won the Nobel Prize in chemistry for something called click chemistry. And it's a way that scientists can now build super complicated molecules like Legos. Like it's just made chemistry so much faster.
But not only faster, but more practical.
Yeah, exactly.
They have practical applications in medicine, drug development, DNA mapping, and the creation of new materials.
Yeah, exactly. Now, the most exciting one, and I talked about this on the podcast because it's so cool. Svante Pääbo, he won the Nobel Prize in medicine or biology. He took an ancient Neanderthal bone that nobody said he could get DNA from. And he took that bone and found enough usable mRNA from the mitochondria in it. And he sequenced the entire Neanderthal genome. Like these are like not humans, like they are a family, like they're a subhuman that died out, and our ancestors, the Homo sapiens, survived. We won. But the Neanderthals died out. And then he found another subhuman species called the Davosians as well. And it's thought that all 3 of these types of Homo sapiens, these types of humanoid creatures, our ancestors, Neanderthals, Davosians, intermingled and got jiggy with each other. So and then he sequenced human DNA, and he found the DNA in our genome from the Neanderthals. So we all have Neanderthal DNA in it. And what's the crazy thing that he found out about Neanderthal DNA, Kris? Like, what does it give us? Did you read that far in my notes that I made?
It affects how our immune system reacts to infections.
Yeah. So we have,
so cool.
Yeah. So our immune system is partly due to the Neanderthal DNA that we have, because some of our ancient ancestors saw a Neanderthal and they were like, oh boy, look at that Neanderthal over there. I'm going to go say hello. And that's the story about how we got Neanderthal DNA inside of us. Oh, come on. That sound effect was good, Kris. You have to admit.
Yes, 100%. I really liked it.
Okay, so that's all the time I had to do a wrap up. So hopefully everybody enjoyed kind of those fun stories. If you have any questions about the stories that we talked about, including the Kahoot questions, or you have your own science story you'd like to share, go ahead and request the mic. We'd love to hear from you. If you have any questions about the things we talked about, I'm pretty prepared to talk about the things I did today. I have some really good notes, and I re-listened to some of the podcast interviews. So go ahead. If you have science stories or science questions, we'd love to hear from you. There is Indra. Hello, Indra.
Hello, Kris. Hello, Jason. Hello, everybody. I found it really entertaining tonight. Thank you both for the stories. I was really having quite a giggle here, and I was having more of a giggle because when you were talking about the bats, it reminded me of the very first time I traveled to Australia with my husband, and it was summer, and he had never seen like Australian bats, and they kind of fly low. And they love a lot of the fruit trees that are around, especially like the mango trees and things. And and basically like, so, you know, we would be, there was a lot of fireworks and festivities because it was around Christmas time, and they just had like, it just seemed like, you know, every couple of days it was like fireworks down at the beach, and we live like my parents' house is 5 minutes away from the beach.
Yeah.
So we would be walking, you know, and you know, in the dark, and these bats just kind of like swoop down and around, and they're actually really big. They're really big. Their wingspan, you know, because they're eating all that fruit. And my husband, I've never seen him. He's a veteran from the Air Force. He's like 6'3" and looks like a Viking, and I've never seen him jump and run.
Oh, he was terrified of them.
Yes, and I was just standing there in the middle of the road by myself, walking in the dark, and it was just so funny because just these bats, just like, I didn't know, they like their wingspan and everything, and I really never thought of it because I grew up.
Yeah, you grew up on the Gold Coast, right? You've said that a few times.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's right. And, you know, it's sort of like, it's kind of very tropical, right, and beachy. And so there's just always bats. But every single time the first time was like the funniest, because then, you know, we'd be outside at a barbecue or at family members, and these bats would be, you know, and he'd be virtually hitting the ground at the barbecue. And like, well, where did he go? Oh, he's just over there.
And they're completely harmless because they're fruit bats. They can't even bite you, really.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I know that some people have been kind of hit by a bat, but I think they were in the way. I think that's what happened. Like, you know, they were swooping towards a fruit tree or something.
Oh, yeah.
They just happened to be in the way. So I think there has been some altercations with bats, but no fatalities that we know of. But it was just funny because every time, even recently, you know, like when we had gone to Australia, he still kind of hits the deck, you know, as they kind of swoop. And just like the movies, when you're watching them in a horror movie, how they're flying in this weird sequence.
Yeah.
Well, they do that in Australia. They fly in this really eerie sequence, and it's always at sunset. and it's just this, it's kind of like the dusk time.
Yeah.
And so it made me think of that when you were talking about the bat story, particularly because, the vampire bats, because, and my husband was saying they only eat fruit, right? You said they're only eating fruit.
Oh, no. Vampire bats only drink blood.
Right. That's right. The vampire ones. But luckily the ones in Australia, they only eat fruit as far as we know.
Right. The vampire bats, my understanding when I did the study, are from South America.
Right.
So
it's a regional thing.
Yeah, Mexico, South America, Uruguay. If you want to see something that's kind of creepy, you can, like, vampire bats crawl, so they can kind of run and hop. Because they land on the back of cows and then they like hop along the back of the cow to get to bite. I know. Yeah. I love bats. I think bats are so cute, to be honest with you. Like they have cute little faces. But seeing like if you do, go ahead. Sorry.
What I was going to say is they're kind of cute, but in a creepy way.
Yeah.
Because the ones in Australia, you can see them looking at you like from the trees. From even the fruit trees that aren't that high.
Yeah.
They're just sort of there and they just watch you, as you go by.
Oh, I love that.
It's cute and creepy, I guess. Yeah, you summed it up.
They're kind of like pugs, like a pug dog. I mean, pugs are very cute, but also, like if you look at them, you're like, boy, that's a creepy looking dog. Like it's kind of creepy.
Right.
Sorry, pug owners.
Absolutely.
Sorry, pug owners.
That's right. We're sorry, but it's the same. It's the same kind of vibe. But anyway, it just reminded me of our first trip to Australia, and then there's several other times we've been at family barbecues, and there's been this hitting of the deck. So just wanted to share that. Thank you so much for tonight. It's been really fun, and looking forward to the rest of the stories.
Awesome. Paula, you're on the Pop Hack. Did you want to jump in and then we'll go to Snake?
Sure I would. How's everybody doing tonight?
We're good.
Oh, good. My couple favorite stories, I was going to be like Indra was the bats because I thought that was so fascinating. Plus she had like outfits that look like bats.
Oh, so the bat scientist.
The bat scientist. Yeah. Remember she was all decked out in like a bat dress
Kirsten. I'm just drawing a blank. Chris, do you remember the bat scientist? Kristen
Lear.
Yeah. Dr. Kristen Lear.
There you go.
Yeah.
Good. Well, you don't suffer from CRS like me. And if you can figure that out, you'll know what I mean. But that means can't remember, you know what.
Oh.
but anyway, and the other funny thing I love is the squid lady, because I never heard so much about squids. And then getting texts from a squid lady. I thought that was great.
Oh, Dr. Sarah McAnulty.
Yes.
Oh, she's a gem.
Awesome. And that was one of my most fun ones too. And there was a lot. I mean, it runs the gamut because there's like sometimes they're serious and sometimes they're fascinating. And then there's things about viruses, and then you think, oh my God, I'll never leave the house again. And it's there's so many different venues. But I think one of my favorites too is the beavers. I really enjoyed that.
Oh,
too,
that was so cool. Yeah.
That was a lot of fun too. So yeah. So those are my favorite times, but I just want to say hats off to you guys because you work super hard getting all these different scientists and you make education fun. And I learn something all the time when I listen, and it's just a great community. And I just want to say thanks for all your hard work.
Oh, thanks, Paula. Did you subscribe to Squid Facts? Did you subscribe to Dr. McNulty's Squid Facts?
Yes, I did. Yeah. And I once in a while get them, and it sort of catches me off guard because when I have my own business, I dog walk. So when I get texts, sometimes I think it's clients, and all of a sudden it's about squids, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm on the squid line, and it's just kind of funny, but I really love it because it's just kind of cool.
I'm putting some stuff up in the nest. I'll put Dr. Sarah McAnulty's. Yeah, you can text Dr. Sarah McAnulty's squid. I'm not sure where it is on her profile, but then you get a squid fact. Oh,
yeah, I think she might have it on her Twitter account. She may. She put it up there. I'm not sure, but she might have it pinned or something. I don't know, but I know that there is a number. I could probably find it too for you.
Oh, yeah, she's so cool.
But it was a lot of fun, and your son and all the stuff with space. I don't know. I'm so obsessed with space. So anything with space related, and learning about new things, that was always cool too. And like I said, I don't want to keep up too much time, but I just want to say thanks again, guys. You guys rock.
Oh, thanks, Paula.
You're welcome.
If you like texts from a squid, I almost have it set up for the Pawpack to have text from Bunsen, actual text from Bunsen. So for the
that'll be cool.
I know it's good.
I'm for that.
The toll-free number I had to apply for to get the texting service set up that I'm wanting. It just got approved, so I'm a couple days away from getting that set up. So, Pawpack, keep your eyes peeled for that. Over to Snake.
Hi. I just wanted to talk about bats. We try to count them, and we'd always lose track around 50, 60. They're living in the awning above my back door. And every night at sunset, they'd go flying out, and we'd try to count how many. And I mean, there's probably 100 of them up there. It was just so, it was cool. You know, I don't have anything against bats, but all day long, they, you know, do their business down, and you're trying to dodge it, but you're coming in and out of the door. It was, I don't know. They say it's good for your gardens to fertilize with their bat poop or whatever they call it.
Guano,
but, yeah. But we had to kind of plug up the holes so they couldn't. And plus, when they're sick, they lay on the ground. And when the dogs would go out, they'd go to the bats, and that wasn't happy.
Oh, I can't imagine. We don't have bats in that number, but I can imagine Bunsen and Beaker would be very curious in what's going on with bat guano.
Yeah. And and plus every once in a while, you know, there'd be a bat laying out there, and that's just, you can't have the dogs around bats.
Oh, like it's sick or dying or dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like birds, I guess, too.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I also wondered, are we excited about the fusion that happened?
Yes. So I'm doing, that is the story that's come on the podcast that's coming out this Thursday. So that I did that story. And did you want me to tell you about it? I'm really excited. I just can't even fathom they created energy. Is that kind of like the layman's terms to that, or? Yeah. So the whole idea is that for decades, fusion has not really worked. They got it to go about a decade ago, but the amount of energy that they put in was like, I don't know, 100 million joules or some crazy high number. And they got like 5 joules out. So it's super inefficient. They got it to work, but it required so much more power than what they got out. And the exciting news from California is that they actually made power, like net energy, from the fusion reactor. So that's the breakthrough. It's actually a huge deal in nuclear energy. Massive deal. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. I just can't, creating energy, you know? Yeah. So, well, that's all I wanted. I'm just really excited about that. Like, I can't believe that everybody's not talking about it type of excitement about it.
Yeah. I talked to all of my classes today. It was my lead before I got into my lesson. I just told them, I gave them a little mini lesson about what fission is, and how that's, you know, you can use E = mc squared to calculate how much energy you get from fission. And then we talked about what fusion is, and then how big of a deal it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
They had to heat the fuel pellet to 3 million degrees, 3 million degrees Celsius. Like, the amount of energy and like bananas that went into this to get it to work was crazy.
Yeah, but they did it.
Yeah. Yeah, they basically made, and this is the wild part, fusion is a sun. So what they made was a little teeny tiny star. They fused hydrogen and hydrogen together, which is wild.
Pretty soon, yeah. Next thing we know, they're going to find a little particle to orbit it, and then
it's the plot of the second Spider-Man movie. Dr. Otto Octavius, the bad guy, he makes a fusion thing that goes south, and then the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man has to deal with it. Yeah. So if they were to scale this up, like maybe in the next decade or 20, 30 years, if they can scale this up, besides a tiny pellet to get it to the size of a room, you could have, if you're an American or Canadian, you could have one fusion reactor in every state or every province, and it would power your whole state. And it would be free, basically free power, unlimited free power. Which would be very bad for the world's economy. So I'm sure there are people in governments that are watching this very closely, because if this improves at the same rate over the next 10 to 20 years, a whole schwack of people ain't going to have jobs no more. So that's the downside.
Well, we'll see. I'm excited about it. Excited to see what happens. So
awesome.
All right. Well, thanks for talking to me.
I have some funny comments. Ren says, poor asteroid. Yes, the poor asteroid. Okay, any other questions or comments or stories, science news things they'd like to talk about tonight? I haven't asked you, Kris. Was there something that was on your radar? I did the research for tonight's show, but I mean, there were things that I picked.
Did you want to talk about the flu in dogs? Whoops, There goes Bunsen. The flu in dog story I sent you.
Oh yeah, I turned that into a thread. I think that came out on the scheduler today. I wrote that thread on the weekend. I'll see if I can. Yeah. I'll see if I can find it. It's in our.
I was just thinking about keeping the dogs healthy, and
there we go.
That was interesting science news. Also, you had a post the other day about the thermodynamics and pets in the bed, but science is showing that it's good to have your pets sleep with you.
I didn't see that one.
Oh.
I tell you, I don't sleep. I sleep so much better with Bunsen and Beaker in the bed. Like in the mornings that we have lazy mornings, and I get up and let the dogs pee, and then I might come back to bed for a little bit. If they're sleeping on either side of me, it is like I sleep for another hour, and it is the most restful sleep I ever have. Now, not everybody will say that with dogs, because some dogs like move around in the night, but we're pretty lucky with Bunsen and Beaker because they just sleep all night like a log.
Right. But if we talk about it, the flip side, right? So people often ask if they should share their bed with a pet, but what about is sleeping with you good for your pet? And so it's a reversal of the question. But in general, it is a very good thing for animals to sleep with their people. And if we talk about pets who share their human's bed, tend to have a higher trust level and a tighter bond with the humans that are in their lives.
Aww.
So for them to come jump in the bed with you, it's a huge display of trust on the part of the pet. And then not only that, dogs and cats who are more closely bonded with their humans get additional health benefits. And those benefits can include increases in beneficial neurotransmitters, such as oxytocin and dopamine, which are the feel-good hormones. So yeah, it's it doesn't even actually have to be just cats and dogs. You could have a groomed pot-bellied pig if you want.
Yeah, because people have those, Kris.
Well, some people might have a pot-bellied pig.
I don't know how it would jump up on the bed. They got kind of stuff. I don't think pigs were made for jumping. That's not what they're not really. Kind of got stubby little legs. Would you have like a little pig ramp, or you'd have to like yeet them into the bed, like chuck them in there?
You could yeet them. I bet you could hit them with a refrigerator, and they would just fly right into the bed.
No, we don't want to hit the little pig with a refrigerator.
No, I was just kidding. I was talking about our asteroid story, but I was just thinking that they could definitely have a ramp.
Yes.
Yeah.
There you go. So,
but like you were talking about, any activity that the bed or the dog does in the bed to disrupt your sleep, is those micro awakenings, and they lead to sleep fragmentation.
Yeah. Dr. Jessica Kanya, she has a German Shepherd that always wants to sleep in the bed with her. I remember she tweeted about this like 2 years ago, and the German Shepherd was like very restless and it was destroying her sleep. And she's a veterinarian, so she's got very, very busy, stressful jobs, and it was just not good for her for a couple times. So we're just lucky with Beaker because she hops in the bed and then she's just does not move all night. She's like, and she's little and she's very quiet. So go Beaker. I am very sad she sleeps on your side of the bed, though, because I love that little golden retriever so much. Sarah, you jumped up here. Go ahead. It's good to see you.
Hi. I jumped up when I heard the dog sleeping with you because my husband thought it was insane when I had my little copper bear. He was a medium-sized dog. He was only about 50 pounds. Not sure what that is in Canadian, but he was pretty small, and he would curl up into a tiny, tiny ball. And I'm diabetic, and so my feet are always cold. But he would get right on top of my feet, and and his body was so warm. So he was like my little heating blanket under my feet. Well, Charlie, after Copper Bear passed away, we got Charlie, and Charlie is now, I've trained him to sleep at the bottom of the bed so I can stick my feet under him. And now he does the same thing. Their bodies, I mean, they just run so much warmer and it feels really good. But if they get up more than once, like one or two times, I put him on the floor and I take away the ramp to the bed and he'll lay down so that doesn't interrupt sleep.
Yes.
But usually he sleeps all night. He'll sleep in one spot all night. Every now and again, he'll get up and do a spin and get more comfortable. But I love it. I love sleeping with the dogs.
I do too. Like I mentioned, when Bunsen doesn't normally jump in the bed because he's so big and I think he gets so hot, he actually sleeps. Normally he sleeps on the door crack, doesn't he, Kris? Like our front door. He'll sleep right on the door crack, and this is like winter time, so there's like, I'm sure there's cool air that blows through the door crack. But occasionally he'll hop in the bed, and then you get sandwiched between him and Beaker, and you would think you'd overheat, but you just don't. You just go into this, you feel like in a little sauna, and you just go into this restful sleep. Oh, it's the greatest. I think they should do studies on that. Like if you like your restfulness with sleep with dogs.
Yeah, they had a new study in 2021 about the effects of pet-human co-sleeping and bed sharing on sleep dimensions of children and adolescents.
Oh,
so that's
like that's cool. I'll have to look into that because that's a big problem with adolescents and screen time is they don't sleep well, and then they're so tired in school. So I wonder if sleeping with a pet or having some kind of routine with a pet would help. That's very cool.
And interesting, another article I read about children and screen time is the detrimental impact of regulating, using your device to regulate behavior. So if your child is between 3 and 5 and they're having a temper tantrum, it's very easy just to give them the pad, like the iPad or the phone, but it's really harming them long term because they're not learning that self-regulation.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
So I read an article about that.
We are very lucky that our kids grew up with none of that. Like when our kids were having a temper tantrum, I'm like, okay, I guess you're just going to have a temper tantrum.
Well, and we worked it through with them, like with their words and being able to use their words, because the temper tantrum is just frustration
with little kids.
Definitely.
Absolutely. Yeah. They just don't know
Absolutely.
they just can't articulate why they're so upset. Yeah.
Right. And there's just all that emotion. And so it's, for them not to deal with that emotion. Emotion is important to be able to recognize and be able to compartmentalize, like how you're feeling, what you're feeling, and then just putting it away by the distraction of the device. I was reading science on that. So
very cool.
Yeah.
I put the dog flu thread up in the nest. So it's something that, like Kris, you saw this article, and then I did further research on it. It is a problem. just like a lot of us right now, from being apart during COVID to protect each other and ourselves. It's not that our immune systems are weaker. That's a common misconception why more people are sick right now. It's just that we didn't get sick. And now that everybody's gathering again, there's a greater chance of bugs spreading. And that's why in a lot of places around the world, there's just way more people being sick, and especially little kids. So that's one bit of misinformation I saw on social media, that people are like, oh, everybody's immune system is weaker. No, it has nothing to do with that. It's just that we are just gathering. It's not that we're weaker. We're just exposed to viruses that we weren't exposed to before. But anyways, the same thing's happening with dogs. So dogs were kept apart from each other in large numbers during COVID. And as people weren't traveling or people were staying home, dog kennels weren't as full. And that's where these outbreaks are being fueled from, is everybody's traveling again. Yay. Everybody's going to see family from far away. Yay. And they're signing their pets up for a spa day or for a weekend at the dog kennel or the puppy play care or whatever you call daycare. And it's just all of these dogs are now together, and their immune system isn't weaker. It's just they haven't been exposed to these viruses, and they're being exposed all at the same time. So that's some couple things to really watch out with your dog. Obviously, if your dog's behavior or health changes rapidly, that's something you should go to the vet. But the dog flu in the thread, it goes through some of the symptoms, and most dogs will be okay, but there's some that won't if you don't catch it in time. So something to be aware of. And they're just suggesting that if you're dropping your dog off, especially this holiday season, to call ahead and ask if the dog flu is dogfluenza or whatever is in the place where you're going to drop your dog off. And then you just have to make the decision if that's a risk you want to take. There is a vaccine for it. The flu that's going around for dogs is, where is it in the thread? H3N2. And there's a vaccine you can ask your vet for. As vaccines don't provide 100% protection, they do help, and they definitely lessen the severity of the symptoms. So something for dog owners to think about. There, did I do a good wrap up of the dog flu thing, Kris?
Yeah, you even added things that I was going to add. So
oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to take some of the things you were going to say.
No.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's about we're kind of going to wrap up the space. Last call. If you've been waiting to come up, we can take you. If you've got another comment, or if you've got a science story or a science question, we can do that, because this is the last science chat of 2022. We will not be back until probably, I don't know, Kris, February, early February, late January. Some people worried when we said it was the last science show that we're leaving Twitter. That's not the case. No, just that every year, I take time off from all of the stuff I do in the end of December, and then all of January, I take a mental health break. So I don't do any new podcast episodes, and I kind of turn we have one more speaker. That's fine. And then, our SciChat, booking guests takes a lot of work. So that's going to go on hiatus until the podcast is back on. Pink Princess in the City, did you want to say something?
Oh, no, I just want to say thank you so much for Science Chat. And I'm so glad that you confirmed that this was just the only last chat of the year. But I just wanted to say that I really appreciate how you use your platform to promote all fields of sciences, because recently I had to explain to someone the use of microbiology in art conservation, because they thought all we did was like play with paints and chart and like chalk. And I said, no, we actually utilize all fields of like sciences, including especially in chemistry, to do the work we do. And so and I recommended that they check out SciChat and Bunsen and Beaker to see like the fun side of learning. And they loved it so much that they ordered a Bunsen and Beaker for their kids.
Oh, wow.
So thank you so much for everything you do.
Well, thank you for pointing people towards us. That's amazing. I love that.
Well, happy holidays, everyone.
Thank you.
Wishing everyone all the best.
Yeah, I tell my students all the time, there's some kids that sometimes struggle with school and they're really into like fashion and they want to become like a hairdresser or something like that. And I'm like, there is a lot of chemistry in hairdressing. There's so much chemistry in hairdressing. So you got to pay attention.
I got students who are really into art to embrace math and science by showing them like how math and science applies in understanding architecture, geometry, about like, material sciences, like when things that developments of Krupo and so many different specialty blends of fabric that are now being used for sustainable fashion.
Yep. And
like I love, and their teachers in their schools really appreciate that I took the time out to come to their schools to talk to their kids, to talk to the kids about it, because they're like, it's one thing for me to tell them about it, but it's another thing for someone who actually went to a design school that they dream about attending and actually like worked in the field and is able to bring in samples and to show them projects and to be like, oh, this designer did this, or this was at the Venice Biennial. They're like, the fact is that I was able to take what they were learning abstractly, or they were reading about like bits and pieces and fragments on Instagram or heard about on TikTok, and actually to see it in person, it just opened their eyes out to like understanding how much math and science is in the world that they live in and want to be part of.
Oh, that's great. Well, if you came as a special guest, especially with kids who are already motivated in a certain field, that's just gold. So that's great that you did that.
They also love that the fact that someone who was autistic was able to connect with them.
Oh, that's great. That's awesome. Well, you know what? Thank you for the kind words, and we will be back. It's not like we're quitting. We're just taking a mental health break to spend time just focusing on our family. Paula, you wanted to say something funny. I'm curious before we round up here.
Well, about talking about dogs sleeping in the bed. I was a breeder gone bad. I had 7 Yorkshire Terriers at one time because I had the grandmother, the father and mother, one dog, and then oops puppies. So I had 7, and we had 6 in the bed.
Oh my goodness!
So it was like maybe like Bunsen, but in little parts. But then it got too crowded, so we had to let some go in beds on the floor. But at one time we were like, oh my gosh, I think this is way too many, because we couldn't even turn in the bed.
Oh my goodness.
And then on a Bunsen thing, I did dog sit 3 Bernese Mountain Dogs at one time. I was for 14 years I did them, and I was doing sleepovers, and my husband's like, well, do you miss me? And I'm like, well, not really, because there's one next to me about your size, because the dog would just like stretch out the whole length of the bed and just like lay there all night. And it was great. And he wouldn't, like you said, he didn't move. And it was really funny. So I just had to add that, because it was kind of comical, because I've slept with a lot of dogs, dog being a dog walker. The funniest one, I'll leave you with this, was 2 pit bulls. And they were rescues, and they were very well trained. And I was sandwiched between 2 of them. And I said to my husband, well, if I don't call you in the morning, you'll know where I went, because I was just afraid I was going to be like, who knows what with these pit bulls. But it was kind of funny.
Oh, cute.
So, yep. All right, guys. Happy holidays to everybody. I hope everybody has a really great holiday. And you too, Jason and Kris. You guys take care.
We still have Pet Chat on Saturday. That'll be that'll be the last Pet Chat, I think, because the next Saturday is like Christmas Eve. So I'm not 100% sure we're going to be doing a Pet Chat Christmas Eve. Tracy, go ahead. You jumped up here. Go ahead. Did you have a science question, story, or something to add?
Just a quick thing.
Yeah.
Like in terms of like pets sleeping in the bed, like some people try to control that. I would have like no choice on that matter.
Oh,
because Ricky would just like, he would just be like meowing if I tried to like shut him out of the room.
Gotcha.
And he was snuggling under the covers today because it actually is cold in California right now.
Oh, very cute. Ginger sometimes comes in the bed. No, but like it's weird because she makes no sound.
She makes no sound. She lays right by your head, and she's hungry. But she doesn't poke. She doesn't meow. She just lays there
Yeah.
and waits.
I woke up one time. I was like, woke up and I'm like bleary eyed. It's dark. And I'm like, what? And there's a cat like staring at me. It's like sitting directly in front of my face because I'm not used to this. And she's just like staring at me silently. And I'm like, what? That's a little freaky. But
it is. And then you have Bunsen, Beaker, and Ginger in the bed. And then you're like, what is going on?
Yeah. Yeah, you have to get to the bed before Bunsen because when he lays down, he takes up half the bed and all of the blankets, and you can't move him. Like you can't roll him, you can't move him. He's just there. It's like if you took a dead weight corpse and just threw it into the bed. That's what it's like. Like just some, a tree. Good luck.
Oh, maybe like the AI with the weird skin on it.
I guess just so.
Take that and throw it in the bed.
That's
and
creepy.
It's got its fingers.
That's pretty creepy.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, everybody. I think we'll do a little wrap up here. This was kind of fun. Normally we have a guest, but we decided since it's our last show to do things a little differently. And I think it went pretty good. I kind of liked it. It took a little bit of prep though. I'm not going to lie. Okay. We'll wrap up here. Got to get my wrap up song. There we go. There we go. Okay. Couple things as we wrap up. You'll notice Indra is in the space. Indra runs these awesome spaces on meditation, wellness, mindfulness. And she's been running this one about being an introvert and how you can, live better as an introvert. And that's in the Nest. So if you check up top there in the Nest, her next space, I believe, is tomorrow. Or you can click on Indra's profile and go directly there. So that's one thing. Tonight is the last night. If you are thinking about getting a Bunsen 2.0 stuffy or a calendar, after tonight, this sale is over and we can't guarantee you're going to get stuff by Christmas. So that's all shutting down. It's all automated to shut down tonight at midnight. So that's something to think about. Great gifts for people. And lastly, we have Pet Chat on Saturday. I think it's the last one. Is that what the calendar says, Kris? Like, is the next Saturday Christmas Eve? I thought I was looking ahead and that's what it looked like. Yeah. So I don't know if we'll have a Pet Chat on Christmas Eve. So I'll just call it and say next weekend, this coming Saturday will be the last Pet Chat. But we'll run Pet Chat in January, I think. Like, they're easy to do. We just show up and have fun. So, okay, any closing words on SciChat, Kris?
No, well, yes, of course. I really appreciate everybody coming, and I love sharing science and our passion of education with you. And we wish you a happy holiday and a very happy New Year. But we'll be saying goodnight to science, but definitely there on Saturday for Pet Chat.
That's right. It'll give me a month to start booking some.